in to that square in Istanbul, chasing out protesters with tear gas, water cannon and all the rest of it. Well, we're going to get some reaction from you now. Do follow me over here, because Nicholas Rushworth is here with us, and you've got some online reaction. Let's see what's been going on tonight. Starting with a bit of a satirical take on what's going on.
Hi to you, Laura, and to everybody. Yes, the take online includes lots of serious tweeting, but also a lot of satire as well. And I can show you this tweet here, there, showing Recep Tayyip Erdogan. You can see him with
got an Oscar.
Yeah, a statuette, no less, from Hollywood, saying the winner is, and the Oscar goes to him. There you can see it again.
And why are they saying that?
Well, let me just show you that one first.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
With a terrible picture of him, the photo slapped on there. If we can look there, you can see very closely, not a great picture. And who do we see in the background but Clint Eastwood? But the message there is very much seen in this tweet here. What we've got is people arguing that some of this, what we're seeing, is being stage managed. It's about Erdogan presenting himself as a victim. There are manipulations, there are lies and so on. So we have information and counter-information.
Well, I just wanted to ask you about that, Evan. Perhaps you could react. I mean, because last night the government was offering to hold talks with the protesters, and then today we've just seen what's going on. What do you make of that strategy?
Yeah, I think that's the main problem of the government. They are talking, all their speeches are soft, but acts are hard, really hard.
So they're saying one thing and doing another?
Yes, they are saying different thing and doing another. Governor Mutlu told we will never attack to the Park Gezi, and now today they attacked the park. That's the main problem. Maybe I can, if I need to think naturally, there is a problem with the coordination of police forces, I can tell.
OK. Now, Erdogan has a bit of a difficult, some might say schizophrenic relationship with Twitter. He's criticised it, didn't he? He basically said it was the root of all evil a few days ago. He said that it stirs up trouble and all the rest of it. But he's also using it to get out his own message. Let's have a look at that.
We can go and have a look at his Twitter page there. You can see that, in fact, he has 2.86 million followers. Huge amounts, really, for someone who said a few days ago, Twitter is the worst menace to society. Now, he has been tweeting in the last few hours, and I can show you one there. My translation is extremely ropey, so forgive me for that. Someone is disturbing Turkey's rise in standards of democracy at home and abroad via the Taksim Square incident. So that's him tweeting, Erdogan tweeting a few hours ago. This one also, again, apologies for the translation. People are rubbing their hands at all the different groups getting carried away in Taksim. But Erdogan, finally, in that last sentence there, saying Turkey will continue to grow. Its growth will continue. So his message is very, yes, I'm using the Twitter sphere, but at the same time, as you were saying, a sort of slightly contradictory approach.
It's interesting, isn't that, Professor, how he's kind of hates Twitter, but there he is using it to get his own message out, something he hates but he clearly needs as well.
Yes, he doesn't want to show any weakness above all, and he's very popular, and he wants to be the one who we will apply the Islamist AKP program. And Gül, which was his best friend and partner, will be seen like the one who shows weakness. I speak on the point of view of the voters, the hardline voters. I think if it's calculation.
Arno.
I don't know if you noticed, but Recep Erdogan is not following anyone on Twitter. So I think it's, it's kind of an allegory of how he's using the media and also the social media. He has 2 million of followers, but he's not following anyone. And with the media, it's the same. He uses the media to spread his message, but not to listen to the population and to people.
Okay.
So it's pretty interesting.
Nick, thank you very much indeed. We're going to leave it there. Nicholas Rushworth there with Media Watch. Thanks for bringing that in. Let's talk a bit about how Erdogan has really managed this from the beginning, because he seems like a politician who's been very much caught off guard by this. He blamed Twitter, as I said. He blamed the protesters themselves. He called them riff-raff, vandals and all the rest of it. He even lashed out at other EU leaders, calling them hypocrites. I mean, the list goes on, really. He's really been lashing out. He seems to be someone who can't believe how ungrateful these people are.
To some extent, from the beginning, he sees himself as a victim. There's something going on, a complot that is going on against him, coming from external forces or internal forces he cannot control. He cannot admit that there are some forces that he cannot control. He's a real governor. I mean, he's the person who can lead this country, the only one, and nobody can attack him because, as he says, I came here with democratic elections, so all these people are with me. People who are not with me are getting influenced, or they are getting external forces to act against me. So I have internal and external enemies. And he cannot avoid Twitters, he cannot avoid social media. It's impossible for him not to follow them. But his enemies are in there too. So if he doesn't, I mean, if there's some censorship in the media, in the Turkish media, in the national media, he cannot do this on Twitter, on social media. So that this is, of course, there are also some issues there where they are saying this movement has been supported, has been encouraged by the international media, but not by the local people. So don't take into consideration. So he does everything to delegitimize the whole movement and legitimize himself as a prime minister. But here now what we see, in my sense, is, I agree with you, there is lack of coordination, but I wonder to what extent this lack of coordination is not on purpose. Yeah. Okay. There are some different strategies that are played around, and he knows that. And I'm sure everybody knows that there are different strategies. He seems to be putting on
lots of different strings.
Yes, but they all know that.
Let's bring in another tweet that we've got here from a viewer, DJ Nkosi. The fight is not over. It never will be over because rulers, not leaders, in brackets, like Erdogan, keep being elected into office. And we've got another one there. Erdogan has been digging his own grave today by destroying Gezi and arresting lawyers. No turning back, not anymore. So it seems that some protesters anyway have been really galvanised by what we've been looking at today. Zia Miral, I was wondering if I could get your reaction to that. I mean, whatever you think of Erdogan before all of this happened, I mean, it's difficult to say that he didn't handle this very well, did he, from the beginning?
No, he didn't. I think there are three distinct phases of the protests, and with that, there are pretty much three distinct phases of how the government responded. I think the first 2-3 days, there was clear disorientation, there was clear ambiguity about what was happening within the government. Then when he was in the Maghreb and northwest North Africa, there were complicated and there were contradicting messages from various government voices. And when he came back from North Africa, he had a strategy quite clearly played out. He demonstrated a strong position and he wanted to rally his own constituency behind him. But I agree with you. I think government's handling of this has been quite shocking. I think not only just in terms of police brutality, but also communicating what their plans were on Taksim Square to the general public, but also showing the complexity of these issues. And I think one of the commentators in the studio said, we have seen protests not just only in Taksim, but in places, for example, like in Antakya, which the background is the Syria crisis. We have seen protests in northern Turkey, in Trabzon. The background is completely different. We have seen protests in Dersim, Tunceli, which is the background of which is utterly different. So all of these different contexts, sadly now, are being lost into our exclusive focus on Taksim and the rightful voices of the Taksim protesters, which are very different than other voices protesting. Absolutely,
it has absolutely gone nationwide, and I think we've got a map of the cities across Turkey where protests have broken out. Can we bring that up and have a look? Because dozens of cities, there we go, you can have a look. All across the country, east to west, you've got protests going out. 78 countries, is it, where we've got protests going on in Turkey? I mean, this is a big headache for Recep Tayyip Erdogan, however you look at it. What seems to be happening, Evren, is that for many years, Erdogan has had complete control. Step by step, he's really increased his power base. The economy's done phenomenally well under him. No one can dispute that. It's now the 17th biggest economy in the world, Turkey, which is quite a feat. But up until now, he's had a very weak opposition. I mean, the opposition doesn't seem to be able to come up with anything to challenge him. Now are we seeing a new phase in Turkey? Are we seeing the secularists and the liberals and all these other bands who don't want Erdogan, but they're not sure what they want? Are they now going to galvanise and get themselves together and come up with a credible opposition? Okay,
I want to talk about these with under 5 topics. First of all, Turkey was the 17th biggest economy 20 years ago. the country is in the same place. Nothing changed.
GDP has
GDP is increased
greatly.
right now. Okay, GDP
Turks
increased.
are richer under Erdogan. You
Yes,
can't dispute that.
it seems richer, but the economy is the country is in the same place. 20 years ago, it was the 17th biggest economy. Today, 17th biggest economy. This is the statistics data of the Ministry of Economy, Turkey. And the other thing, economical effects of these protests, okay, the stock market of Istanbul lost over $1 billion in these 2 weeks. But there is an irony in here. Halkbank, which is one of the biggest governmental banks in Turkey, they are the first place sellers in the stock market.
Oh, so you're saying there's some sort of a conspiracy going on?
I don't know. There is an irony because they are always using, we are losing money. We lost.
Because Erdogan himself blames foreign investors, and he had a go at them as well this week, didn't he? He said they were
Halkbank. I got the data. Yeah, I got the data from the stock market of Istanbul. And the other thing, you cannot believe if you don't see with your eyes. They united the football fans. That's the thing. You can never see three biggest football clubs fans in side by side in Turkey: Galatasaray, Beşiktaş, and Fenerbahçe. Now they are calling themselves Istanbul United.
So they're all getting together, which you don't normally see football. Opposition football fans do, yes.
Yes, for the first time, Erdogan has succeeded in uniting, gathering all people who hated each other before. Leftist and extreme right, Kemalist extreme right, Kemalist and other leftist, Kurds, Armenians, Sunni and not Sunni. It's very interesting because I think it's the first time that so many people from a very opposite side are demonstrating against him because of his arrogance.
What about the Kurdish question, though? Because hasn't Erdogan reached out to the Kurds more than any other Turkish leader?
I think that Kurds and Alevis are a very important point that media don't speak enough on, because Turkey is a divided country. They are Turks, but also Kurds. They are Sunni, but also millions and millions of Alevi who belong to not really a Shia, but a nearly not Islamic religion. Very hated by Erdogan. Erdogan did never recognize Alevi, who are 20 millions of Islamic, non-Islamic Sunni citizens are ignored by the Dinayat, the legal body to help religion.
Do you see a credible opposition emerging out of this week's events?
Opposition, I don't know. It can be punctual. It can be just for the moment. It can be just for that. There are many people, I agree, there are this composition, internal composition of Turkey, but there are people who have never been politicized, who have been living in very bourgeois neighborhoods, who have never got involved in any, but they had to go to Gezi, and then it became sort of fashionable. So I think the problem with the whole situation of the opposition, of this resistance, is that they should get organized and have a leader in order to get legitimacy, political legitimacy now. If not, it's where,
they're all agreed on one thing, and that's that they want Erdogan out.
They want Erdogan out, but I think they are not the only one. There are much more fractions in the party that they want Erdogan out, but they cannot express. So all this is an opportunity for internal fractions of the party. This is an opportunity for other branches of politics. And this is an opportunity to use, but to use by who and how? This is the question.
Maybe the biggest opposition may come from the AKP members themselves, because you don't have 100% of supporters of Erdogan within the AKP. Look at the reaction of President Gül in front of these demonstrators. He said that that democracy was not only about the fact of being elected. So we must keep in mind the fact that in 1 year you're going to have local elections in Turkey. Then you're going to have presidential election as well. And Erdogan wants to have the seat of Abdullah Gül. At least it was his goal before those riots. And I think maybe some of AKP members and AKP mayors as well are going to be afraid of not being re-elected. And in that case, if Erdogan loses his base, some of his supporters, maybe in that case it's going to be within the AKP that you're going to find an opposition.
And it's why he wants to change the constitution, because if he is president, he will have no power. Then he wants to change the constitution to give more power to the president.
But this has been accepted by the parliament anyway. Yeah. So the next election will be presidential. The change of regime. Turkey is going through a change of regime. They are going from parliamentary regime into a presidential regime.
Okay.
So if he has to be president in order to remain in power, if not, he has done his 3 elections and he's done.
He's out, a bit like something that happened in Russia not too long ago, isn't it?
He wanted to do like Putin, but Medvedev is not the same.
Right.
Gül
exactly,
is not
I agree.
Gül is not
I
Medvedev.
want to add something. That's true. There is not real opposition against Erdogan in Turkey. The problem is there is no alternative against Erdogan.
Right, that's my point.
AKP.
They know they don't want
AKP.
Erdogan, but they don't know who
There's
they
no
want.
alternative to AKP.
Yes,
Alternative
exactly.
to Erdogan, I think there are
Yes.
some.
I'm not sure about that, but you are right. There is no alternative against AKP or Erdogan. It's the same for me. And the thing, this protest has no leader. And I can tell a headless body cannot live long. If they cannot unite and find a leader, and if they won't open the ways of dialogue with government, and the same, if the government won't open the ways of dialogue, it will become worse. Both sides need to calm down, sit, need to take a break, and try to. I'm talking not really. They need to open a way of dialogue.
Zia Miral, what do you think of that? These protesters are in trouble if they don't come up with some kind of leader. A headless movement can't last long.
Well, first of all, it is really not a political movement as such. It's an eruption. It's an expression of frustration. When we look at the surveys that have been done among Gezi protesters, more than 80% of them said they do not feel close to any current party, but most of them also differ in terms of their votes. In terms of actual measurement of the electoral implication of the constituency represented on the Gezi Park, I do not see anything more than 15 to 20% votes emerging, even though there was actually a legitimate and strong leader that could unite the sentiments in Gezi Park. AKP constituency has already retreated back in support in Erdogan because they're afraid of the other side. Kurdish voices and Kurdish politicians are supportive of the AKP government simply because they are realizing the possibility of a new constitution, and the PKK peace process goes through the AKP. On top of that, the nationalist MHP parties had said actually he doesn't support Gezi protesters. So if you add up all of these cohorts, we're basically looking at 70 to 80% of voters who are not in support of Gezi protests. So while Gezi signifies an important social moment in Turkey, in 7 months its electoral implications are quite thin and weak. However, for the sake of our country, I do agree that Prime Minister Erdogan has to accept the reconciliatory voice. The tensions have to calm down. Both the protesters, both the government has to learn to improve our democratic culture.
I want to draw your attention to another tweet we've got coming in. Can we have a look at this, please? This one is kind of giving the other point of view, I guess. It said the police riots, I guess they mean riot police, only interfered with marginal groups today, not with people that were protesting peacefully. Can we have a look at that? That's from @Collingty. Apparently we can't have a look at it, but that one's coming in. So already, I mean, do you think people are, I mean, we've François Picard reporters have been speaking to business people in Istanbul and in Ankara recently, and a lot of them, as you would expect, are fed up because they can't do business and they haven't been able to do that for a long time. Do you think Erdogan has quite cynically been trying to divide the country between those who are fed up and those who support him, and he's taking a gamble today in the fact that those people will support him? He has addressed his supporters twice recently. Do you think he's trying to really whip up his loyal power base?
I think it's a good way to put it, yes. He's trying to find some conflictual confrontation rather than to go through reconciliation in a provocative way. And even within the business class, they are the old, settled, secular businessmen who were the most famous holding, and the new business group that is emerging with himself being in power. They don't I mean, they don't have the same place in his mind and in his economy, because he's working on the rise of the other group. But he's looking for many confrontations, not only that, and also group confrontations. And I don't agree that it doesn't make much difference in his electorate, because it will depend very much on the attitude of Erdogan. So far, he has been provoking. So far, he has been using too much provocation and hatred in his discourse, that this can be used by his own party people.
He's been using the language. It struck me. He didn't sound a million miles away from Bashar al-Assad when he's talking about terror groups, foreign journalists, conspiracies, all of this. I mean, the language has been very inflammatory all along, hasn't it?
And this is, even if you go without any political background to this place, suddenly you find yourself insulted. And this gives other opportunities to others who are looking for their rank in the AKP, I think. I don't see any oppositional party. I don't believe that any oppositional party can take advantage of this. But he's living open place, and he's giving some room to other people who don't agree with him already within his party, and they can jump into this, because it becomes a matter of as I agree with Monsieur, that his personality was always a problem. It's not new, but all these people knew his personality, and it's also, there's a provocation, because they knew he won't give up. He won't give in either.
Well, 10 years ago, Turkey needed a strong leader, didn't it?
And he has strength, and he knows that with Europe, with Americans, with Chinese, and with Turks, and with everybody, strength pays. Look, when he was in Germany, Angela Merkel said, why Turks are not integrated in Germany? And he answered, if you want to integrate Turks, it's like a crime against humanity. He's always using very strong sentences in order to shock and to deception strategy. It's very clever, because people are afraid by him. When he wanted to join Europe, he said, if you don't accept us, you are racist, anti-Turk, anti-Muslim, you will create a civilizational clash, and we will join your enemies. And Berlusconi and Prime Minister of Great Britain said, better having them with us than against us. And it pays back. He's intelligent,
and
he's clever.
Been the same way with all of Turkey's neighbours,
pays
hasn't he?
with cowards, or with people who make appeasement policy.
That's a good point, because he's been like that with foreign policy as well. I mean, look at the strong tone he's taken with al-Assad in Syria. Look at the way he's been with Israel. Look at the way he's been with the Armenians.
Al-Assad, 3 years ago, he said to al-Assad in private and in public, you are my brother. I know you will never betray me. No, and he received a Gaddafi prize for human rights. 5 years ago. Then it's a guy which is very clever, strong, but able to change.
But that's why we're
totally
he's
change.
Pragmatic. He's very pragmatic. But also, he's not the only one to have this charismatic leadership. There are many around now. It's not the old-fashioned politician who would.
But it's one of the most popular politicians. It was one of the most popular leader in Turkey since
because
Atatürk.
He had other things, other cards to play. Also, he had the regional card to play. He had the Palestinian card to play. The Palestinian issue as a universal issue. Anti-Zionist,
but that's why it's interesting to see how he's come unstuck in the last 2 weeks. I mean, that's uncharacteristic. He's come unstuck in the face of his own people. It seems that he's really not known how to play this.
He wants to be a new sultan, a new caliphate, and he knows that for this strategy, he has to be well with Palestinian, Arabs, Iranians, Muslims, and it's why he wants to build a mosque in Taksim, because if people are not okay with that, he will say, you are atheist, you are anti-Muslim. It's always a confrontation strategy.
The danger is that he even used this strategy by saying that this atheist, anarchist, and extreme leftist guys are attacking alcoholics, of course, attacking Islam and covered women and women with headscarf. They are drinking.
So do you think that's a legitimate fear then? Just quickly, because we are running out of time. Because one of the big criticisms, of course, of Erdogan is that he's trying to make this an Islamic republic. Do you think that's a legitimate concern? Has he? Because I'm just thinking they restrict alcohol sales in London, for example. I mean, so
yes, because London wants to please to Islamist extremists also. You know that in some quarters in London, my Turks friends were shocked because it was Sharia control zone in Finsbury Park.
But I don't think. I won't call Sharia republic, but Islam will be a part. Islam has always been there, but not in an open and legal way. It was it will remain secular in the constitution.
But do you think he has ambitions to make Turkey more Islamic?
But he said he's nostalgic of the Caliphate and of the Neo-Ottoman Empire. It's the reason of the project in Taksim.
A lot of these.
Just quickly,
can I come in briefly?
Yes, please,
a lot of these are really disconnected from Turkey. Tells us more about how Turkey is perceived than Turkey. The ratio of Turks who wanted Sharia laws in Turkey was 27% in 1999. The last year, the same ratio was 9%.
Of course.
After 10 years in power, no law that has been passed in Turkey were based upon Sharia laws. None of the studies show any change in the place of religion in Turkey. Turkey is facing culture wars. Turkey is facing a divide between different political affinities, different geographical locations, different classes, and those who previously saw themselves as the owners of the country and those who are now seeing themselves as the owners of the country. But none of these can be conceptualized within a prism of neo-Ottomanism and sultans and Islam. These are all
but
Oriental
in the schools they oblige people
Alexandre.
to follow Sharia Quran course, Quran lesson, even for non-Muslim.
Right.
And Alevi, 20 million of people, they are not recognized by the Ministry of Religion.
We could go on and on with this one. I'm terribly sorry we have run out of time. Thank you very much indeed to all my guests. Thanks to you for watching. This has been the France 24 Debate. Stay tuned.